Helps if I come off mute, right?
It does.
It does.
Peter, Roxanne, how's everybody doing?
Doing great.
Great. How are you, Nick? How are you, Brian?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a groundbreaking day. Here we are doing it live.
I know, and we're the first ones to get to engage in this. Ooh, this is so cool. Thank you for inviting us, you guys.
Absolutely. This is going to be a blast, guys.
Well,
No, thanks for joining us. And for those of you who don't know, if you don't listen to our podcast is called Lead.exe. It's a play on words for leadership.execute. It's a little techie, a little nerdy inside there. That's why all the graphics look like a Commodore computer or a Tandy. If you're familiar with that.
Goes back a ways, Nick. Goes back a ways.
man, Tandy.
Really? Phew.
Hey, you never used a Tandy or a word processor?
Oh, are you kidding?
Have, Brian.
Man, I grew up in Dallas. I was a Tandy junkie.
There you go.
Nice.
So I'm joined today. This is Brian Comerford, who's my co-host here, and I'm Nick Lozano, and we're joined by Roxanne and Peter. How you guys doing?
Absolutely super.
At your command.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We couldn't think of two better people to have on our maiden voyage for this live streaming experiment. And if there's someone that I know I love to speak with in all three of you. So, combining all of us together, it should be a chatty good time.
I really admire your courage, you guys. Not just with the company, let alone the live thing going first.
So real quick, why don't we just give quick intros for folks who aren't quite be familiar with you. So Roxanne, why don't you just go ahead and go first and give a brief bio?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I have a leadership development firm called ProLaureate that I founded in 2003 after leaving a corporate career. And prior to that, I was actually in the performing arts, working on both sides of the stage. So the short story to the long saga that gets us here today is that along the way, I've learned that the single most important thing we can all do for ourselves and others is to find and develop our best selves, our champions, our own inner champions. And it all starts right here. So that's what I do now. I work with middle market and large global corporations in developing cultures of leadership, and I'm also an executive coach. So that's what I do. And I'm a student of Improv. Thank you very much, Mr. Margaritis. And I'm a student of Nick and Brian, and following what they do with their technology and all the things that they do wonderfully well in their own careers. So thanks, guys, for letting me be part of this. I'm very honored.
Very kind of you to say.
Yes,
Right back
thanks
at you.
for coming.
Thank you.
And my name is Pete Margaritis, and I'm happy to be in this classroom with the three others because I've learned a lot from the three of them as well. I'm the accidental accountant. I'm a CPA, but not a really good one. Technically, I've taught it before, but I'm also a student, longtime student of the fine art of improvisation. And I have found that improvisation is really a leadership tool. Improvisation is all about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And it really became very apparent to me of the uncomfortable on March 13th, 2020. Because every day has been uncomfortable, and I've managed to keep my sanity because of the principles of improvisation and how it applies in leadership and being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So I'm also a keynote speaker. I have coaching clients, and I just have a blast at what I'm doing. I just love spreading the word of improv around.
Well, I was glad to hear you didn't say that March 13th was the day that you found out that you were going to have to live with yourself, and that's when it really became uncomfortable.
You know, Brian, I just got past that yesterday.
Jeez, Brian.
But now I'm back into it going, yeah, I haven't been on an airplane since January 10th. When normally I've had about 50 flights by this time every year. So
Oh, no kidding.
That's the truth.
that's okay. That's okay. I've got my water.
Don't we all?
I've just become accustomed during this time to really, associating other people and my interaction with them with seeing them represented as a cluster of electrons on a screen, right?
Brady Bunch.
It does kind of take away from the closeness of, giving a physical embrace or a handshake. So, with the changing of times, it's interesting seeing most everyone I interact with anymore in two dimensions.
It is, man. We could do the whole episode today just talking about the ramifications of that and how everybody deals with it differently, how it impacts us on so many different levels. But I know it's your show, so we'll just let you go.
Well, as Nick and I were talking about having you both on, this is exactly why we thought it would be appropriate. Because
you never know.
Look at the times we've been living in. I mean, if there was any greater opportunity for both improv, right? Every day has been kind of a reinvention of what we might be doing, and really the trajectory of having that common vocabulary around leadership. And I mean, at what point has there been a greater need for leaders than there has been through this crisis?
There is none. Not in our lifetime anyway, and I think many lifetimes before ours. No, this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, Brian, I'm glad you didn't say the new normal. So
no.
I thought that's where he was going. So
no, it's the today normal because it changes every single day.
Right.
We haven't even gotten close to the new normal.
Exactly. This is just Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, right? That's what it feels like. The only way I only differentiate between a weekday and a weekend day now. It doesn't even really matter what day of the week it is anymore.
It just depends on whether or not you had to set your alarm clock, right?
I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if it's after 12 o'clock, we can just call any given day at this point the noon abnormal.
Oh, that's cute. I like that, Brian. Sure, I hadn't thought of that one yet. That was very good. Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of improv. You learn to be comfortable in this uncomfortable world that we're.
And speaking of uncomfortable, man, I just saw Peter stiffen up there. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
freezing up just a little bit there.
Yeah.
this is
That was his new Zoom background. That's what it was.
The surprised Peter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that. Oh my gosh, I've had some days. I've had my days, but I've had better days than not. And try not to get too far in front of this thing, and think about we don't know when it's going to end. All we can do is worry about today.
That's so important what you just said, Peter, because when I address, we've all had to go virtual, right? Some of us were kind of half a foot in there anyway, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. At least I've been for a long time. But going 100% with this, there's a whole new dynamic now and a whole new dimension when you have all these faces in front of you in a one-dimensional format. It's affecting us psychologically, emotionally, physically, in our hearts. I mean, it's impacting us in all these different ways. So, guys, I'll tell you, when all my stuff is virtual now, as all of ours is, and the first thing I do when we start is to have that conversation. This is not an, oh, poor me, we're not going to go to the victim of a pandemic kind of mindset, not going there. But what we need to recognize is it's a different forum. It's a different format. So how do we engage here? How do we really get the connection between each other and stay very engaged in what we're doing? There's all kinds of things that work here. First, it's the technology, the experts at technology. It's certainly improv. That's what we're all doing, is we're kind of rolling with the way it goes. And it's understanding our own philosophy of leadership and what that really means, no matter what we're doing, right? Or who we're doing it with. So there's a lot going on in this transition, and it's all opportunity if we look at it that way.
Yeah, sage words, Roxanne. And, one of the things that comes to mind as I hear you say that is I think I've seen a lot of tendency to leap toward blame. In some cases, it's been very politically motivated. But, equally, I think that there's also a responsibility on all of us for accountability, right? Mm-hmm. And so as we see leadership styles that may not be so oriented towards communication or effective communication.
Better said, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
then suddenly, I think there's a need to be able for all of us to engage in that conversation that really drives us towards improving through a
Yeah.
set of situations where, talk about the improvisational nature of what we've been going through. Every day has been a reinvention to some extent, whether it's medical information or seeing the changing in numbers and, having to figure out who's going to be part of the remote workforce of today.
Right.
Absolutely. And the thing that the improviser does is focus on the things he or she has control over, not the things we don't have control over. And a lot of times I see leaders are focusing on the things they absolutely not have any control over, or
Yeah.
not even accepting the fact of what we're in. I know there's a few people in my sphere of influence who I can't wait to get back on stage. And it's like they have this, I'm going to be there tomorrow, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I can't wait till we get back to that live classroom. Well, me too, but it's not going to look the same that it did prior to. And it's just, frustration is not the word, but it's just, why can't we just focus on what's happening today and not get too far in front of ourselves? Because that's when we go crazy. That's when we lose our hair. That's when we pull our hair out. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Really, Peter. Yeah. Whoa.
I forgot he's sensitive about that.
Not all of his hair was pulled.
By himself. Somebody else pulled it.
Wow.
Nick's just kind of faded into the background for me there. I mean, he's got this matching motif that goes along with our logo colors.
It looks really
Hey,
green.
this look was intentional. You
really
gotta keep it, on brand, on message, right, Brian?
You are a brand master, my friend.
So as we're talking about, leaders adapting to this new leadership style and everything being remote, it's kind of this shift to remote work, right? And it's this idea of there's certain managers who view productivity a different way, right? And they're like, okay, Joe Smith is here Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and that's when I know work is getting done. And how much does that have to shift now, right? People are at home with their families, some of them with young children because some schools still aren't in. How much does that have to change, and what should leaders do to kind of help make that transition?
Well, I can tell you, I watch this and hear it all the time, especially in corporate environments. We have folks who are very used to seeing the productivity happening, the camaraderie happening, shoulder to shoulder, all working together in teams. And it's tough on a lot of leaders and organizations to not know. It's like referencing what Peter said. Now they don't have control over seeing if people are actually doing their work. So they're struggling with, are they or aren't they? Are they taking advantage of the system, or are they really getting the work done? And from a leadership perspective, one of the primary things that leaders are responsible for is results. Are you getting the results at the end of the day? If you are, bing, yeah, okay, I'm working. I may be working differently. I may be taking time to go walk the dog or take care of the kids or tutor this or do that, but then I'm at my computer until 10 o'clock at night. It's the results that are now measuring it. And I think there's a whole mindset that's starting to change around that, that you don't have to be in the office space to be productive. And I also think it depends upon your personality. Mm-hmm. Some people are thriving in this remote environment, others not so much so. I don't know what you guys are seeing.
Well, I think it comes down to one word: trust.
Mm-hmm.
Do we trust our employees? And there's a generation, my generation grew up not trusting employees. My father told me my first, as he said, real job in an office, he gave me this advice: you get there before your boss. You make sure your boss sees that you're already there. And when you walk around the office, you keep a file in your hand so it looks like you're busy, even if you're going to the restroom. And you make sure you're the last one there. Well, after your boss leaves, then you can leave so they can see that you're working. He never said anything about work. It was just that visibility of it.
Yeah.
But Absolutely. The people are more productive now that they're home
Yeah.
versus under the thumb of the leaders. And leaders have to trust. There's a few of them falling over right now, but
They will.
what did he say? Trust my employees? Oh, have his head!
Well, his last name is Margarita, so.
Well, I have two comments in response to that, Peter. First of all, I didn't realize that was the standard all the way at the beginning of the agrarian age. I mean, it's interesting that there's been a continuity of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you had that.
That was
well earned, right? From the Harrison.
I just lob them up. You just hit them out. There you go.
Just back and forth, back and forth.
So it's funny that you say that, Peter, because when I worked in restaurants, I remember I went to this new space and this guy, training me, bring him in. He's like, hey, this is what we do when we prep for the day. And he goes, by the way, always have a spatula in your hand and always walk very fast. He goes, because everyone just thinks you're off to go do something. You can do whatever you want, be on your phone. He's like, but as long as you have that spatula and you're walking fast and you look determined, he's like, people leave you alone. They think you're working.
Right. Out of the way, I got something to flip.
So Nick, are you teaching people how to do that on video? On virtual, can I walk back and forth my screen with something to look very important and busy?
Well, I think the method to that is you do Peter's method, and you just do a looping freeze frame for your Zoom background where it's a video. Just a perfect loop where you just nod every now and then look down and then nod.
Yeah. Put a pen like you're thinking.
That's right.
Good. I like it.
Well, I was going to touch on one other point that both of you brought up. I think that there's also an aspect of leaders who are coming from a fearful place right now because they're starting to realize maybe my leadership's been absolutely ineffective this whole time because the productivity is so much higher and the outcomes are so much better, and I'm not even at arm's length with any of these folks, right?
Oh, we lost Peter.
Oh, no.
He'll come back. We'll see him.
He was offended by your background comment.
Here,
he's coming back in.
Okay.
There's the margarita.
Where'd you
What'd
go?
you kick me out for? I'll take it back. Seriously, I'll take it back.
Stop talking about the hair.
Yeah, I know, man. I know better now.
This is the internet, so
Next time we expect you to knock before you enter, pal.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Oh, we're echoing.
Uh-oh. See, Peter?
I'm echoing. I don't know what that is. So, Brian.
It's probably me.
Oh, okay. Are you on your phone? Okay,
it's
stopped.
No, I'm not on my phone right now. I'm in this podcast.
Did you just shut your camera off so you could drink some of that Maker's Mark? Is that what you did?
No, I have no problem drinking in front of you guys.
Brian, I'm man after my own heart, Brian.
I've got some bottles right over here. I'd be happy to share with you.
Just keep it disguised.
Just keep it disguised.
So, Brian, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to respond to what Brian said. Well, you fell off there for a moment, Peter. Brian said, so what about the leaders who are now feeling like they've been incompetent prior to our pandemic because now there's more productivity in their firms than less? Did I get that right, Brian?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say incompetent, but perhaps ineffective.
I'm sorry, it was a little strong.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I'm just ready to get in there and crack the whip.
The Irish woman's coming out.
That's okay. There she is again. You just brought her out again, Brian. You got to stop doing that. I'm telling you, stop it. Oh my God! Don't get me started on that. So you're right. There are some who are kind of thinking, "Wow, well, I'm not doing anything now, and I thought I was doing stuff then, and yet now it's more productive." I think that's where it's so important that leadership teams support each other through this, because I do a lot of internal coaching in organizations with leadership teams. And these things come up, this has come up, and it's really the support of the team to say, well, wait a minute, let's talk about that. Let's figure out, is that true or is that not true? And why is that? And so you start having conversations around it, and then you go back into the teams themselves that are being more productive and ask them, how come? We've gotten a lot of answers that I'm an introvert. I work much better this way. I love having this in front of me because I'm more open. I'm freer because you can't see everything that's going on here right now, right? And you can't see all of my body. So they feel a little bit more protected from that. So they're more engaging. They're more vulnerable. So the leaders then begin to realize that they were doing fine before and they're doing fine now, but now we have to really adjust. And this is what drives two things, really. Identifying clearly what is leadership to you, what is your leadership philosophy, both as an individual, a team, and an organization. And the second thing is, how can we, to Peter, I'll pitch it right to you, my friend, how then do we take this new paradigm of figuring out what we believe in and then open up our brains and get out of the way we've always done things to do things in a completely different way? How do we do that?
Well, we should take time.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, we have been given the gift of time through this pandemic that we're not traveling as much, we're not having to go. I mean, literally, I've not been on the road since January. But once this went down, I figured it was going to be a long process. And I've been working since March on redesigning, rebuilding my business. And what can I put in here? How can I do things differently in this world? And I've also coached a couple of individuals, and they're having a hard time at work because we're on Zoom. However, because of the size of the organization and they're not using the camera. So it's just like a conference call still. Hi, Pete's entered the conference call. and trying to communicate with their team has just been a huge challenge. And I told my coachee, I said, so let me ask this question. Does your team live here in Columbus? Yes. How many people are on your team? He goes, 10. Great. Did you ever think that maybe you can go to a park and socially distance and have that? As the words were flowing out of my mouth, I could see his eyes get big. Oh my God, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
It's exact for that connectivity and being able to touch base versus seeing just black on the screen and voices.
Mm-hmm.
More and more of my clients are doing that too, Peter, and I've done it with some of my clients too. We meet on a patio somewhere, just a small group, socially distanced. We got our masks on, and we can still have a great conversation and a great meeting. So it's just adjusting to it. Absolutely.
And it's finding the benefits. I get when people go, "Oh, do you have Zoom fatigue?" No. Why? Oh, yeah, you've been doing this for a while. I said, it's a mindset.
Right.
And it goes to how are we changing our mindset to accept what we have control over, and then use it to our full benefit. I'm gonna throw my wife under the rug here. No, actually, she will be watching this later. I'm gonna stop.
It's okay. There's a 15-second delay.
She's probably watching it right now.
That's right. Careful, man.
So that's a great thing you said, like focusing on what you can control, and this is the idea of Zoom fatigue, right? Some of it is, have people adapted the way they've done their video conferencing meetings instead of just doing them the same old way they've always done them, right? I've seen different teams do great things where they have like happy hour over Zoom really quickly on a Friday, just to get that camaraderie. Like, we're not going to talk about business. We're just going to have, a half an hour personal, meeting. Let's just, talk and see what's on everybody's mind. So how much of it is kind of shifting your ideas and trying things anew?
I think
go ahead.
Well,
please.
No beauty before the beast.
Oh, goodness gracious. Thanks, Peter. It has to change up all the time, Nick. It's like, okay, this is a protocol now. This is the way that we are running our businesses. It's the way that we're communicating with other humans. So it isn't just a temporary thing that we're going to get on this video thing and shut down our video and mute our microphone. What a lot of the folks that I'm working with are doing now is saying, okay, we're having a team meeting. Two things are mandatory: turn off your cell phone, get on your computer with your camera, and dress for the occasion. Video must be on. We don't want to see any more tattered shirts and hoodies and all this. You're at work. You may be in your bedroom doing this, but you're still at work. And that's a whole other thing. A lot of people don't even have a place to go in their homes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other topic. So yes, I think creating a protocol around this to make it more engaging and more connective is very important.
During this time, I've created a virtual improv workshop. And I solicited to one of my clients, a CPA firm in a state I'll just leave out for right now. And they took me up on it on April 15th. And they had 40 people on this virtual improv workshop. I had them in breakout rooms. We were doing all these games and stuff. But we started at 3, and I come to find out they started drinking at 9.
Apparently.
So by the time they got to me, they were having a real good time. At one time, a gentleman just allowed to use belch. I mean, I even had to wipe out my ears.
My gosh.
But then as we got towards the end, somebody took the virtual background and switched it. And it was basically flipping everybody off.
Oh, no.
And the partner asked me to stay on, and I did. And we talked, and I said, it's making the distinction that I'm at home, but I'm still in a work meeting. I still have to have some decorum. And to Rox's point, I think that has taken a little bit of time to work its way through, because I've witnessed a couple of other situations, not as bad as that, but we still are in a business meeting. We still need to be attentive. We still need to be, dressed. Not a T-shirt that says "math is hard." I mean, come on.
Oh, come on! It's one of my favorites.
Well, it's for that exact same reason that I've stopped answering questions from my coworkers about must there be pants.
Are you wearing pants, Brian? Are you wearing pants, Nick?
Well, no, of course I'm not.
I might change it up with a kilt every now and again.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about being dressed above the waist.
That should be one of your promos, right, for your next podcast. Peter Myers, it's all about being dressed above the waist.
That's it.
With his headshot.
Yeah. Exactly it.
Well, for me, I think there's been some importance to the consistency of routine.
Yes.
And so, I still get up as if I were going into the office, on any given day that I'm expected to be doing work. And I still dress presentably, whether or not I actually have to be seen in a Zoom meeting or don't have any Zoom meetings scheduled for the day, which is pretty rare anymore. If anything, I think from a Zoom fatigue perspective, it's just that kind of back to my earlier point about, certain leaders, perhaps I'll call them managers, right, who feel the need to log jam your calendar with a bunch of busy interaction because it helps satiate their need for the comfort that by seeing you, it makes them feel as if you're on the hook for doing something for your job. Whereas, my feeling is now instead of having something that might be like a 15-minute stand-up, we're on the hook for a 30 or a 60-minute meeting that's not necessarily driving any productivity or effectiveness.
Yeah, and you know what, Brian? That's when you have to have structure around it. We need to build more structure into these calls and into these virtual meetings and so forth. And this is something that I see happening more and more, is that folks are starting to do that. They come in with a very clear agenda, very clear objective. Here are the points. Let's discuss them, come to a conclusion, and move on. Here's the start time. Here's the end time. And I think that is really critical in all of this. Another thing that has become really a very, very big deal, and as part of I'm also part of the National Speakers Association, keynoter upon occasion, and I did my first virtual keynote, which was absolutely incredibly cool. It worked. I was just thrilled. It was really, really neat, and I was scared to death, but it worked out well. But they have a partner that they work with, e-speakers, right, Peter? It's e-speakers.
Yep, e-speakers.
That is doing virtual certification for professional speakers. So what they do is teach us a little bit about the technology to make sure we have that. And I'm sharing this now with everybody that I work with. It's like, guys, this is really important. Set your scene, set your background, make it warm and inviting, but also professional. Let it have pieces of you in it. I mean, obviously, Peter and I are both certified. You look at our backgrounds, and you guys have done a great job. You got brand man up here with Nick, right?
And you got Clutter Master with me.
You got radio voice with you, Brian. That's what we got with you. So all these little, you're welcome. All these little things make such a big difference in the engagement. And all my clients are asking that, Rox, how do we get our people more engaged in this virtual environment? I'll pitch that to you guys. How are you doing it?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go. I'd be happy to go. I ask them questions. I have them answer questions in a chat box. I set them in breakout rooms. I can still show videos in my presentations and when I'm working with teams. I tried to get a client to do, we were going to do 8 hours. I tried to get him to do it in 2 pieces. He said, we don't have the days, so let's just do it in 1. And everybody was dreading it. And I did everything that I could to maintain my energy level, to call on people, to talk about, keep things moving and keep them moving. That the best compliment I got was at the end of it, said, that went by fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I shut them off, I melted into my floor because I had used about everything I had. That energy level, that adrenaline level, I was pretty wrecked, but that's what I'm a professional. That's what I need to do. And if it was for 8 hours, it's for 8 hours. I wasn't complaining about it. I was just wanting them to get a good experience because I knew that they really wanted me to come out there, and I really wanted to, but the count started going up around the area and here, and said, no, I'm going to stay home. We're going to do this. I'm going to do everything I can to make it as engaging as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even before the pandemic, I always made it a requirement with my staff that if we were in something that was a web conference kind of meeting, that cameras were on. From my perspective, there may be times where you're having a bad day, and so you're granted the exception for that. But otherwise, just seeing someone's initials on the screen isn't enough for me to know that person's engaged in most cases.
I'm sorry, sometimes they're not even there, Brian.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's not even just about being there, but just being able to see someone's facial responses and know that they're checked in, right? That there's some degree of engagement, understanding. I'm seeing you nod right now, Rox. I know that you're listening, and there's some comprehension going on, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can show your enthusiasm and where you are with this and what's going on. I just want to say it's okay, I get it. It's all good. Yeah, that's what we need to do is just be even more ourselves. Let more of ourselves show through in this environment. And
maybe not you, Peter, but.
Wow.
Right. Oh my God.
I was just going to say, what happens? You said they're allowed to have 1 day or one time. A bad day. Does a bad hair day count?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
I haven't played that card yet, but I'm gonna.
I'm just going to be quiet and listen to this one. You know what, though? I think from my perspective, that when you talk about, from what I've learned so far in the little bit I know about improv, coming from a theater background helps me too, because it's somewhat connected in that world, is that everything, we started talking about this from the very beginning, Brian, when you said, isn't this the time that we need leadership more than any other time? So doesn't that mean that we need to clarify and understand what that means to us individually, in our partnerships, in our families, in our businesses and everything? What does that really mean? And are we living it every day? And those are the tenets of improv. And that's what I'm learning about that too, is that that as well as all of the training and education and everything we've all had. If you go back and you look at all of that and you look at your experiences and as they accumulate over time, and you look at it through a leadership lens a lens of this is what leadership is to me, you begin to see clearly what works and what doesn't and what the results are of each. And that's where we need to be focused today from my perspective.
I agree, Roxanne. And I think leaders need to be better listeners. And they're not.
So true.
Because you mentioned something about, I think I need to be there so I see you and I'm going to take your time because it makes me feel better. That's called ego. Mm-hmm. And there's too much ego in corporate America because their agenda, their fulfillment is above the team. And in improv, it's not about me, it's about the team. Mm-hmm. And that change of mindset and the ability to listen. And listen by, I'm doing some solo casts now, and the one that just came out is listening to understand versus very much a listen to respond, and just stop. Park our ego, park our agenda, park our biases, and listen to what the other person is saying, and empathize with them to understand how they feel in their shoes, and ask questions. Man, we get a lot more done, but there's a lot of non-listening going on, and people's agendas and biases, and it's just insane.
Well, that listening is the first component in my mind to the learning. That's the transformational change, right? Once you start to receive information that might actually invert some of your own perceptions or biases, that's when you might actually start to share in alternate perspectives, not alternate facts, alternate perspectives, right?
Right. No, well said. And don't you think that so much of what we're seeing now on the darker side of things that are happening is fear-based? Like back to your point, Peter, about not having control over anything. Doesn't it come from just fear?
What'd you say? I wasn't listening.
No.
I can't. I think you're exactly right. It is fear-based.
Sure.
It's very much fear-based. And when we become fearful.
Uh-oh.
And what?
We lost you for a second there, Peter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we heard you at the we become fearful.
We become
and then the internet was the
deer in
internet.
the headlights.
Yep.
It was a good improvisational gesture.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. I mean, fear drives erratic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We're all fearful of stuff, but yeah. So I'm trying to get past the fear, and this is all honesty. I am trying to get past the fear of heights, and the only way that I know how to do it is to jump out of an airplane with a parachute on, with somebody strapped to my back. I want to do this, and I will do this. I've been talking about it for 5 years. Eventually, I will convince myself to do this. But at least I've got to the point to say, because somebody said, "Would you ever skydive?" No, with another adjective in front of it. No. Now it's like I want to. I just haven't made the time. But now I'm telling myself, this is not going to be as scary as you think. If the old man George Bush could jump out of a plane and he's 90, and I'm 35 years old and jumping out of a plane, come on.
Is that true?
Well, one of those two has a lot more years to lose.
Well said, Brian. Yeah, anything I said more than I did is going to be a really bad hole to go down.
You know, for my wife's 40th birthday, I took her skydiving, but it was inside of one of these wind tunnel cylinders where you actually rise up. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, we took our son for that too. He had a great time. And you know, there was no fear. It was a fearless experience.
See, I want to jump, and I want to have the guy tended to my back, and they'll video it, and I'll be falling to the earth screaming like a 13-year-old boy, but that's okay. I want that visible. That I did accomplish that. I did change that mindset. I did do it, and the first step is acknowledging the fear, and how do we get past it?
Now, is there a way to strap 6 feet apart?
The big stick.
I'm going to hold my tongue on that one. This is
I saw the wheels were turning. The wheels were turning.
This is part of live that I was afraid of.
So as we're on the topic of fear, that's a good topic here, right? As we're talking about some jurisdictions are further along than others, and some people are going back into the office, and it makes a good point that fear is relative to each person, right? You might have some of your team members who are completely fine going in. They don't mind riding public transportation. They'll hop on a plane. And then you have other team members who, won't step out of their house. They're still going to follow the quarantine orders. So how do you deal with that as a leader, because you're dealing with different people's certain levels of fear?
Well, I can share with you a little bit of what I've seen from the leaders with some of my client companies. They're being, this is a very, very real thing because everybody has a different circumstance. They may be living with an elderly parent. They have kids that are, going back and forth. Something's happening all the time where they're trying to protect. They don't want to go out into the world and come back and share, but the leaders in the organizations that I've had experience with through all of this so far are being really, really good about it and just saying, pardon me, if you have any reservation whatsoever, don't come in. Mm-hmm. It's tough on leaders of organizations, formal leaders of organizations, to say that. Back to your point earlier, guys, when you said, well, how do I know they're being productive, right? Mm-hmm. I'm used to seeing people working. It's bringing the human beings together. But now we're pretty much pressed to say, we can't mandate this because we don't know your circumstance. So it's being very flexible about that, being a couple of the folks, the organizations that I work with are being very transparent with their corporate populations, and they're doing bi-weekly executive team meetings with the entire corporate population. They're 20 minutes, but it gives an overview of what's going on, the new COVID rules and regulations that are coming out, all of that. And that's very empowering in alleviating fear, in helping people to get around their fear. And again, I think it's finding trusted people in your world, professionally and personally, that you can talk to about these things, that is a safe environment to talk with, and just vent it, put it out there. It's okay. I start a lot of the programming now with, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel really weird and have no idea what we're doing. It's okay. That's an elephant, put it in the room, and let's talk about it first. That helps.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, that a la carte method. If we're going to open our doors again, then if you feel like you can come in and want to come in, please. If you feel like that you need to be home, please. There's not been that mandate, and I have yet to hear one organization say, no, we're coming back. Everybody's coming back into this place. I assume it's out there, but I have not seen it, heard it, or read about it.
Nor have I.
And I think that's just being kind to the people that work with us, mm-hmm. and allowing them to make the choice versus we mandated a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting though. There's an entire workforce population out there that has never once through all of this had the opportunity to work from home. And those people have continued to be in situations where, despite the fear, they're having to go into this on a routine basis and at times be confronted with others who have varying opinions about the seriousness of what we've been undergoing and what steps anyone needs to take to protect themselves. So it's I think a whole other different set of leadership challenges, managing teams that don't have that option to be remote.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's why you see all the hero signs everywhere, right? Healthcare workers,
sure,
drivers, grocery stores, all of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking even of the trash pickup service. I mean,
the lawn guys,
the guys that are doing construction on civil projects that they can't stop.
Right. Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, I think there's been I don't know globally. It would be interesting to know what really is is the concentration of appreciation for that, of outward appreciation. I mean, are we seeing that worldwide? I think we are. If you just go on the internet, you can see a lot of it. But I wonder if anybody's really studying that and seeing, doing a little bit of research and saying, wow, we've got about 40% of places across the country that are really recognizing these unsung heroes, if you will.
Well, they got time on their hands. They don't have to commute anymore, so I hope they will be doing some studies and research.
Well said, Peter.
Just means he can sleep in.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you bring up the point about the international nature of this. I'm married to someone who was not born in the United States, and so just by nature of the media that she tends to consume, it's global in scope.
Absolutely.
And so on a routine basis, we're seeing how a lot of other countries have chosen to respond, how they're communicating, the effectiveness of leadership around the world, or the ineffectiveness. I mean, there's it's been pieces and parts everywhere, and for reasons that we're talking about on all these topics here. But I think there tends to be this sort of narrowcast view that a lot of people fall into, that it's just whatever's happening in my little sphere that touches reality.
I do work for an international company, and during March they were having weekly calls. So I would jump on these calls, and folks from South Africa, Europe, Canada on these calls, and they're all they're
calling you now.
They're right there.
Wow.
They're on the line.
Oh, wow. And they're going, one said, it appears your country's putting profits ahead of people. And that was the look that I gave. I didn't know really how to quite respond to that.
That's saying a lot for a CPA.
I know. Right? Right. One life is too much out of all of this. But I do know that we have my wife has an aunt in Greece, and they
Uh-oh.
Greece shut
And then
down.
again. That was weird. Couldn't hear
Again?
that. Yeah, again.
Then I'm going to pass it to you, because apparently all the time.
Well,
played.
I have a stepdaughter who lives in France, just northeast of Paris, and talking with her she's just been totally isolated. I mean, all of her siblings are here. There are 5 kids altogether, and we have 2 out in Oregon, and 1 in Cleveland, 1 in Columbus, and 1 in France. And so when talking with Maggie in France, it's just amazing. I mean, she had to have papers to leave her house. And if she were stopped walking or driving or riding, they fine you this incredible amount. I mean, the different things that different areas of the world are doing to manage through this is pretty eye-opening when you stop and think about it and you really look into it.
You locked me up on papers. I just started thinking about, wait a minute, if I don't have something on my phone,
I feel like I don't own a printer.
No, right? No, we have to carry papers on them, papers that have their certificates of being able to go 50 feet away from their home to go get a cup of coffee or something.
That's right. I've been clutching this in my sweaty palm for the last 4 hours. Now I'm going to hand it to you, administrative officer.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Exactly. Craziness.
You're good. Go on.
You're good. You just go.
Just hold it and let me look at it from here. I got it. It's good. You're all fine. Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty lucky that we've at least come this far with it. It's unknown. We don't know what's coming around the next corner, guys.
Well, one thing that I think has been a contributing factor is just the general sense of decency that we share amongst our communities, those who we're interacting with, having a level of respect for where someone else is coming from. I mean, if you see someone wearing a mask and socially distancing and you're and that's not your thing, and you're not respecting that, to me, there's an element of common decency that I think, comes into it that, again, from a leadership perspective, if we're hearing communication around reinforcing certain behaviors, that's when I think, we have a clear sense of what the rules of engagement are, or at least what the guidelines are.
That's right.
And I think that that's critically important, especially during a time of crisis.
Yeah, and with businesses in their communities, they're setting the example by the way they are in the community. People are watching them. If you go back to some of the basic tenets of leadership, just walking your talk, doing what you say you will do, and modeling the way. Show other people what is good leadership in this time. And it's not about title, and it's not about any of that stuff. We know that, right?
Right. As Simon Sinek has been quoted, authority is not leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership's the positive effect you have on another person.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and actually I was flying back through D.C., through Reagan, 9 o'clock at night, went to the men's restroom, and there's hustle and bustle, and there was a attendant in there, restroom attendant. And he looked at it like he had a bad day, bad week, bad year. But he kept that place spotless. And that quote hit me in the back of the head. So I went over to him and said, "Excuse me, sir." Freaked him out at first. and he looked at me and I said, "I just want to say thank you. You're keeping this place spotless. I just want to say thank you for all your hard work." He looked at me, kind of straightened up, kind of stuck out his chest, goes, "Thank you." Nobody talks to me. Nobody even says thank you to me. My boss doesn't even say thank you. You're the first one. You just made my day, my week, my year. And I went, Sinek is right.
Yeah.
It's that positive effect we have on another person, not the negative effect.
Yeah.
On the other,
True.
that's leadership, and within organizations, everybody in the organization is a leader if they have a positive effect on another person.
Well, and additionally, no contribution is too small to go unacknowledged.
Exactly. Absolutely.
That is the core, the heart, everything you guys are talking about is exactly what leadership is. And if we just keep, it's those simple tenets that if we live by those, everybody, you are building, you are growing, you are developing the leadership that you were born with in your heart. And we all have that. It's just a matter of digging it out, finding it, developing it. And it's with those little things that make it happen. That's the language of leadership. That's the language of leadership. You know me, it's all about the love, right? It is. You got to take it out into the world, right? Let people know.
And I'd like to ask you a question, Roxanne. So how about those folks who they're not in any kind of titled leadership role today? They're not a manager of other people. They're no one's supervisor. And they themselves have not ever really connected the idea that leadership is a responsibility that they might really step forward with.
When I taught, it's just a great question. Thank you for that, Brian. When I'm working with people like that, or just talking with people like that, one of the things I always go to is, okay, why don't we get our arms around this whole leadership thing? It's a real scary word. It's like vision. It's something really big, and you're supposed to, like have these big lofty things. It's not. It's pretty simple. So tell me about a time in your life, any time, any circumstance, when you were at your personal best. What was happening? Tell me your story. And they tell the story. And I said, well, what were you doing? What was that about? Where did that come from? Because it always has something to do with conflict, with risk, with fear, with you've got to stand up for yourself. You got to know your values. You got to, step into the fray, whatever it is. And so we talk about that, and I'll say, so what were you doing when you were at your personal best? Oh, that's right. You were leading. We all have moments. We just have to remember what those moments are. It can be the simplest little thing. It can be helping someone who's stumbled or tripped, or that is what that is. It's at your personal best. When your ego goes away, as Peter would say, your ego is gone, and you're all about whatever this is right now and how I can contribute value and have a positive impact on this person or this situation. So you have to help people think about their lives and what they've done and where they've been. And because we don't remember that stuff until somebody asks us, and that's all part of the social justice thing, is just ask people what their stories are. And you will find leadership in their stories. They usually light up when you do that. I say, okay, now go connect that to your clients. right? Go use that with your clients and your colleagues and your family. Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm sorry. I do go on.
You going to allow Roxanne to one-up you like that? I mean,
All I'm going to say is
Oh, no.
ditto. I could have put it that elegant. That's. I mean, that was I was hanging on every word. What the lady said.
that's right.
Well, thank you.
I'm with you on that one.
I'll
share.
Push those buttons I get on my little soapbox. I apologize.
Love it. Love that about you. I'll share a little anecdote. My son just started 7th grade. This is his second week of school. And on Tuesday, I overheard him in a Zoom meeting with his classmates, or I guess it was a Google Meet. And, he was, they were supposed to have a break, but you could kind of do anything with your time, right? And he was talking with 2 of the other students online saying, I just really have to get up in the morning. I have to focus myself on the idea that by 2:45, I have to have all of these things completed and turned in because, that's what's going to keep me on schedule with my day. And later on, I told him, I'm so proud of you for, taking it upon yourself, because he's at an age where he can start making those distinctions. That's not true for all school children who are trying to wrestle with these changes. But for him, he recognizes, hey, this is a different format, and I've got to be the one who's in control of managing my own time. So if a 7th grader can do it, I think
Exactly.
there's a calling for an awful lot of us to follow suit.
That's right. Get him on the show.
Get him on the show is right.
Let him talk to the masses.
Wow.
Hey, he's writing better theme music than I am at this point, so we probably should.
Oh, really? You have him doing electronic music now too?
Oh, yeah. He's all over it.
Seriously, I mean, the world will listen to a 7-year-old more than any of the rest of us anymore. They know to say they're smarter in a lot of ways.
I think that Ryan kid, who's 6 years old, was the highest grossing YouTuber last year.
Is that right?
Yeah, all he did was unbox toys, and now every kid wants to have a YouTube channel and unbox toys. But
they really just want the toys.
Like $23 million last year or something like that.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
It's crazy.
You could buy a toy for every kid in America.
Seriously. I think Peter's frozen again. Oh, there he is.
I thought he was just being a good boy and standing at attention.
I'm still thinking, can we trade kids? Mine's 20. He's already housebroken, but nothing to the degree of your son.
Is he watching this too, Peter?
No, Dad's on it.
Okay. Okay. All right.
His friends will share it with him later after it's archived.
That's right. Yeah. It'll be all over social
Be
media.
forewarned.
Hey, well, we're broadcasting on Twitch right now too, so he could be watching on Twitch.
There you go.
That's true. Yeah.
Just cut it down, apparently. Oh, how funny.
You don't have to have a joystick in hand just to be able to kick off the live stream.
There you go. Cool.
That's a Twitch gamer reference.
You're getting all technical on me now, guys. I don't know.
Right.
I don't even know what Twitch is.
I don't Twitch, so I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you guys been up to? I mean, Nick, you're in the DC area, right?
Yep, that is correct.
And Brian, you're in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah. So what have you guys been doing the last 3 months?
3, I think like 5 or something like that. I was commenting with my wife the other day. I was like, I haven't been to my son's school since February. She's like, no, it's probably like January. I was just for me, outside of work, and I normally do this martial art called Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is like a grappling, basically wrestling. So that's off the table right now. Nobody can do that because you can't do that 6 feet apart, right?
Right.
It's like, hey, I tackled you, you fall over. It's like, so honestly, I've just been finding, there he is. I've just been finding hobbies of other things that I used to do that I'm doing again. So like that flag back there that you can see right here behind me, I actually made that out of wood. I made a video out of it. So I've been keeping myself busy by doing different things.
Awesome.
I was going to say anything that you want to find out about what Nick's been up to, just check his LinkedIn profile because it's on video there somewhere.
That's true.
Every day.
Nick, you were doing your marathon daily videos when the pandemic hit, right? You weren't. You weren't all the way through it when
90 straight days of video,
Yep.
which was challenging. For some reason I always was afraid of doing video. I don't know why. It's like I could public speak. We had a podcast, Brian, but for some reason you get this camera in front of me and it's just like stammer, stumble, fumble around like I don't know what I was doing. And having to do 90 of them in a row and doing one every single day force you not to even think about it because you're like, well, I got to hold myself accountable. I said I was going to do this publicly, so I'm just going to do it. And some of them were good and some videos were bad because I needed to do them. But
that's okay.
The great thing about video on social media is it gets people to get a real sense of the way you are as a person. Especially on LinkedIn, video doesn't have as big of a reach as like text or like an image, but people tend to identify with it more and identify with you as a person. They see the person behind just someone who's on a picture or the text posting something.
Mm-hmm.
I set the bar much lower. I did 80 fewer days of video than Nick did. But I did record a little leadership anecdote and a juice recipe for 10 days when I did a juice fast.
I saw your juice fast. I saw that, Brian. Yeah. That was cool.
So thank you. Other than that, I have been enticed to do something else that I never thought I would do, which is Zumba. And that's become part of the routine, the workout routine, because there's just not a lot of workout options that we have at home. And that's something that we can stream online and do together as a family. So I look goofy as hell, but
I'll bet.
Hey, well, Brian,
I'm here to stretch myself as a leader.
You should see me playing the game Just Dance, so it's okay. So what about you? What about both of you? What have you been doing outside of the leadership scope, your normal day-to-day? Any new hobbies or anything?
No, I'll tell you, honestly, guys, I'm a walker, so I walk. And on days when
Peter's gone.
Peter fell off again. So so I do a lot more of that now. I mean, I'm out almost every day, and I just love it. I'm not a runner or any of that, but the walking part is really, we're echoing again. So,
Jeez, Peter.
problem. He's such a problem.
This improv thing one step too far, my friend.
Really?
I know, right? God, I got to put more quarters in my modem.
Cool.
Last thing I heard,
So
Roxanne said she's a runner and she likes to run a lot. Oh, I missed it. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ultra marathoner. That's what she said.
That's what I am. Yeah, that's me for sure. That really is, I'm working on the business, just converting everything, and trying to up the bar. I'm not very technically savvy, so I'm really trying to get better about that and just learning what I need to learn in order to up the bar a little bit, and then bringing in people that I can to help me with that. So that's a challenge for me. But yeah, just working on just kind of converting and refining and getting everything over. And I've got a couple of new projects within the business that I'm working on that shall remain right there for now. They'll be announced later.
Cool.
Very cool.
Being Greek, I gotta cook. I've made my own homemade pimento cheese. I've made my own homemade pickles. And those have become a big hit. I've been smoking more.
Careful now.
Pork.
But you didn't inhale, right?
I did not. I did not inhale. I never inhaled. Cigarettes. Marijuana? Absolutely. I've trying to build a remote video studio. So I've got these two big lights over here, and today I figured out how to do a 2-camera, and tomorrow will be a 3-camera.
Oh, you're going to be on Twitch. You're all set up for Twitch now.
That's where you do it, yeah.
Now all you need is a stable internet connection.
Yeah, really. That would help.
Here's your arrow, my friend. Okay.
That's the .exe part of this program, by the way.
Oh, it's execute. I got it.
Oh, that was brilliant, Rob. Outstanding.
See, I need a rim shot, right?
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, is that a good note to end it on?
Probably.
I think that's a good note. Roxanne, where can people find you if they're looking for you?
They can find me at my email address, which is rkaufman, Kaufman, at prolaureate.com, PROLAUREATE. They can call me or text me or however you want to use my phone number. Just make it nice. 216-544-7528. And go to my website. You can reach me through that too. And that's just prolaureate.com.
And they can find me at petermargaritis.com, and it's MARGARITIS. It should be pronounced Margaritis. So that's too much like hepatitis, gingivitis, and laryngitis. So we pronounce it like a cocktail. You can email me at peter@petermargaritis.com. And since Roxanne gave her phone number, right, I guess I could give mine out. 1-800 call Roxanne.
Uh-oh.
You can call and text me at 614-668-2936.
That's awesome. Thanks again to both of you for taking the time and being with us on this maiden voyage for our first live streaming outing.
Good job, guys. Good job. You're really
Thank
out there
you.
doing it. You're out there doing it. I'm just, I applaud you for this. And thanks again for having us on to kind of launch the thing. Now, it's all up from here.
Absolutely. It was a blast being your arrow target. Thank you.
We're going to have to CGI an arrow in there. For the...
Oh, please do.
Zen archery, my friend. Zen archery.
But this has been a really fun 15 minutes. No. It's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely.
And thank you for inviting myself as well as Roxanne.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it,
joining
everyone.
us.
All
Great
right,
to
guys.
see you both.
Take care and be safe.
safe.
Be well. And you and your families too.
Stay out of trouble.